Welcome to TFW Live, the best kept secret in fantasy football, where we keep that week one feeling going all year long. This is episode 328, where we'll be talking all things waiver wire for week 5. I'm Big Travie, and today I'm joined by one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Austin Sear. What's going on, Austin?
What up, man?
And we are going to talk some waiver wires. I'm excited to do so, but we got to welcome in Whisper Nation, and the chat is already popping off. We're excited. Albert, Ronald, Jersey J, Freak Stomper, everybody in the chat, we love you. We also have a lot of gratitude to our members on the YouTube who support the show through a monthly subscription. I think I sounded a little bit like a boomer there on the YouTube.
I've been throwing in those more often too.
On the YouTube, our monthly subscribers are Gus Ramos, Pizza Belly, Don Cables, Bailey Ziegler, Kevin Davey, Nick, Brett Zabo, John Credit, Eric Lorenzen, Donnie Tubbs, Jersey J, and Hanimal. If you want to join that growing list of YouTube members, just click join next to the video right meow.
No.
Also want to shout out to our patrons. They support the show throughout our brand existence, and we're going to continue our giveaways every month, so don't miss out. Sign up today over at patreon.com/the Fantasy Whispers. We just gave away a Joe Burrow rookie card to our guy Jon Durst. Congratulations again, Jon Durst. So get signed up today. The link is in the YouTube description of the show, or you can go, like I said, patreon.com/the Fantasy Whispers. If you love fantasy football, you want to join a free community where you know you belong, hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel right now. We're trying to get just one more subscriber on this stream, just one more. Uno más. Could be you. And if you're new, let us know where you're streaming in from. We'd love to shout you out on the show. Also, before we get started, I have a little bit of an apology to make to you, to Whisper Nation. On Sunday, we were talking about DK Metcalf. I got real heated about it. It is laughable now because it's a laughable situation that I would let a player and a player take force me off the show. But that is what happened. I owe an apology to you for letting my anger get the best of me, but also, and maybe more importantly, to Whisper Nation here for failing the show, pulling out of it before it was done, and excusing myself from the stream. I'm better than that, or at least I hope to be, and I hope that you guys will forgive me, and I'll be able to move forward. So,
Travie, I certainly forgive you, and I don't even need an apology from it. I think it's a stand-up move. Jersey J loves you, Travie, another fellow DK Metcalf lover. As well on
we'll
this
get to talk about DK for sure, yeah.
And I just think that it is a sign of how much we love this stupid game, and how seriously we take it, and how committed we are to doing the best we can with it every single time we speak on the subject. So I think that is I appreciate the awareness and the care and the love. I appreciate the apology, not necessary, but again, I just think it's a sign of how much we love this game, we love this brand, and we love this community of people here.
Yeah, well said, and I couldn't even say it even more. We got to, as Mr. Miyagi says, loves the passion. Well, I appreciate that, and I am definitely very passionate about this fake game, about another game that is a child's game, in fact. So acted really like a child on Sunday. I hope to act less like a child going forward, but still have fun, still have the passion here. All right, as a reminder, guys, we're going to be working through the top waiver wire ads. I've seen your questions in there. I know, Jersey J, you got a big trade question. We'll get to that. Maybe we'll start the show with that after I get through the spiel here, Austin. But we love the questions like Jersey J has, like all of you are going to have about your waivers. We want to get through the top guys. We want to trust that we can get through that process of the top added guys on Sleeper, and we also want your questions. We're going to be answering those at the end of the show. If you absolutely need something answered right away, hit us with that super chat. We'll not only give you that whisper woo, that famous whisper woo, but you'll skip the line, and we'll get that question addressed immediately. But without further ado, let's dive into that first question before we get into Week 5 waivers.
Jersey J's a real one.
Yeah, he says, I have a question, and one only. I lost CPAT, but I have Allgeier. I lost Swift, but I have Breece Hall in my Superflex. I got offered a trade. I give DK and Russ, and I get back Sanders and Stafford. Yay or nay? Austin, how are you feeling? I'll weigh in a little bit after this, too.
I don't know if I have any real significant feelings towards Matt Stafford right now. That, to me, is the piece in this equation that I think is one you can just scratch off. And Russ might be too, but it's tough when Russ had his best game of the season, 30 fantasy points and 6-point passing touchdowns. You know, when you do those word problems like in elementary school and standardized tests or whatever, and you read like a full page word problem, and then the set of questions are like, it asks you questions that are going to require you to identify within that story of what was significant, what actually moved the needle. I think that Matt Stafford in this trade here is kind of one of those ones where you can just you can kind of move on. Now it is super flex.
One of these things is not like the other.
Yeah. And I think Matt Stafford is 7 points last night in a game where he threw the rock 48 times. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
But it is super flex, so you're gonna have to hold it down. With that said, I think I like Russell over Matt Stafford on this one.
And I think even with your RB thirst, Jay, I'm still leaning on the side of DK and Russ. And I've fully come around on DK, and it's not just because he had this great game and we had this rift, but I think for me, I've seen enough to know that Seattle's kind of changed the culture as far as passing now. And now they're not gonna get Detroit every week. But I do think that Geno has been done well enough in this offense. Somebody got into Pete Carroll's mind and said, hey, we do need to open it up a bit. And since they've done that the last 2 weeks, their passing environment's really good. Tyler Lockett's gotten going again. Will Dissly is going to be a guy we're going to talk about tonight. Geno Smith will be a guy we're going to talk about for the second week in a row. So the environment's better for DK, which was my major concern. I love DK's talent, but it was always the environment, the quarterback, the system. And right now I've seen enough in about a half a month, 2 weeks to understand, and even target-wise, even longer than that, the entire year so far for DK, that I'm okay with this. And I think DK is a guy I'd be going to. I know I'm going to get some flack. 2 weeks ago I said to sell DK. I'm actually more inclined to buy DK. And I think that you could almost buy high on DK because I think that the touchdowns should come if they continue to pass at this rate. And I think that's something worth buying into. And we talked about this, and I was a little bit blind to see it over the last couple of weeks, but we've talked about this before. With wide receivers, I want talent. With running backs, I want opportunity. Mm-hmm. And right now, in this trade for Jersey J, yes, Sanders is now getting some opportunity, especially in these games they blow out. But Boston Scott missed this game, and Jalen Hurts is always going to be a threat to take away rushing touchdowns. So I think just for opportunity-wise, I love Sanders. I'm in on Sanders again. Josh Jacobs, some of these change of heart guys, there's guys I'm seeing, okay, I'm liking what they're putting forward. But I just think that DK and Russ on this, I think that side wins, and I don't know if I'd be, you have Allgeier, you have the dart throw there in Atlanta. I like Breece Hall's usage. Swift will be back in 2 weeks.
What other wide receiver does Jersey J have on this one? Because Miles Sanders is an interesting one, and I'd like to know your take on Miles Sanders, Big Travie, here, because he's the number 5 overall running back in standard, number 8 in PPR. He had 27 carries in a game that Boston Scott was not a part of. He's averaging just under 5 yards per carry. He's getting a lot of work. I don't think Miles Sanders is going to get better than he's playing right now. I think he's definitely a sell high candidate, but I think his floor is much higher than we anticipated coming in this season.
Agreed.
I took his interview where he says, "Don't draft me." I took that to heart.
Yeah.
And he was doing a lot of people some favors or some not favors, depending on if you ended up fading on Miles Sanders or picking him up later. So what do you think Miles Sanders' rest of season value is in this new Philadelphia offense?
I think he's a mid-range RB2 with any week could spike up to RB1 numbers. Just depends on if he can fall into the end zone or get the carries, like if Boston Scott's out of the game as well. I just think that because, like we said, because of Jalen Hurts, because I don't want to take the last couple games of Sanders versus Nick Sirianni's past track record with these backs and just completely overweigh what's happened with Sanders and say, oh, well, he's the go-to back now. Now, to Sirianni's credit, he said that Sanders is their guy. He's talented. They like him. But again, he's tended to go with Boston Scott, to go with Gainwell in different situations. Then, of course, Jalen Hurts is going to be there to take some of the rushing as well. I don't think that this is a terrible move based on roster construction, but I'm leaning on the DK and Russ side.
I want a little more if I'm acquiring Sanders and Stafford. I want a little bit more to make this really feel good for me.
Yeah. And the problem is really Stafford, because otherwise this would be a really good trade, I feel like. But Stafford's offensive line, who their center, they just lost for 4 to 6 weeks with another high ankle sprain, another injury on their line. So it's not good. And they've got Dallas this week, who's an excellent pass rush. It's just not a great look for the Rams right now. And I trust them. He can get better. I'm not saying he can't. But Russ, look at the environment for Russ now. They might have to fully let Russ cook because of the injury to Javonte, because of, Melvin Gordon banged up himself and having a fumbling issue. We saw Russ's best game, like Austin said, and I think I'd be buying that we're going to see more of that going forward than we necessarily are. Like, what's stickier, Russ being good or Sanders being like a bell cow back? And I think, I'm going to probably lean on Russ. Maybe that's folly, but I just kind of, that's where I'm at with it. Although I would say, man, if I want a starting back and a lead back on a team right now, it's definitely the Eagles. I just have this fear that it's a trap door. We're going to see a lot more game. We're going to see more games.
We start thinking Miles Sanders is a main vein, and he might just be an ancillary piece on a really good offense that rotates guys in and out. We just haven't seen that rotation really come forward. But hell, this is the team that picked up Jordan Howard in the middle of the season last year, and he kind of balled out. So you hold that in your mind still, and I think you hit it on the head there with Matt Stafford being the problem. He's got 4 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, and he hasn't broken 273 passing yards all season so far. And we're 4 games in, and they've had some matchups where I would have expected him to do better. Last 2 games, he hasn't thrown a touchdown pass. Yeah. There's some concerning points, and this Super Bowl hangover for these LA Rams just could last a lot longer than Sean McVay might hope, but they also just might not totally care. Like, I get it, but it's like, you guys won, you balled out, Stafford finally got that monkey off his back, you just might not rise above in a way that I think Russell Wilson's ego is a lot more on the hot seat, and he's got a lot more to play for than Matt Stafford and the Rams do.
I would agree with that for sure. All right, Jay, thanks for the question. We got a ton of questions, and just want to say what's up to Chris Bork, Jay Phil, Franz, Albert, bunch of people, Jonathan, all of you guys in the chat. We are going to get to all of these questions. Stephen Joe, we're just going to work through some of the top waiver ads. So drop those questions in there. If you want an immediate answer, hit us with that super chat. But we are going to talk Week 5 waiver wire here, and we are talking the top ads at each position as we go through. At running back, Mike Boone, who is rostered in less than 1% of sleeper leagues, has now skyrocketed as the number 1 added running back, and that's because obviously Javonte Williams torn ACL, done for the year. Tough. The drafters of Javonte Williams are down bad. In 8 leagues, I was surprised to see I didn't have any, because I did like Javonte outlook this year. Just didn't really end up at that backside, that back turn. I don't know if you've got any of them. Awesome, but if so, we'll pour one out here. Moment of silence for our guy.
Pouring one out Williams. For Chris Hannon, who is a Broncos fan and absolutely loved his dude and picked him up in the offseason from me in our Dynasty League. So that is the only shares I had of Javonte Williams and have moved on from him there.
Caleb Huntley is the second most added running back right now on Sleeper. The backup to the backup. I mean, if it's kind of weird. He was actually used more as the grinder. We saw Tyler Allgeier getting involved as well, who is the third most added. So we have the 2 Atlanta backs being added, Caleb Huntley and Tyler Allgeier. And then for our 4th added back, we have Latavius Murray of the Denver Broncos. Now, this graphic, if you're watching on YouTube, shows him in the Saints because, Austin, he was playing for the Saints in London.
I watched this motherfucker play in London because I had Alvin Kamara and I saw him out. I took Kamara off out of my starting lineup. I had Mark Ingram sitting on my roster. I was like, I'm not confident in what he's going to be doing efficiency-wise, even if Kamara's gone. So I brought him out, and then I'm watching Latavius Murray have pop. Like, he ran the ball well, man. Like, and what he finished with there, 11 carries, 57 yards, over 5 yards a carry, and a touchdown.
Yep.
He looked good.
Yeah, and what's not being talked about here is that, Melvin Gordon, this was a reason why he was a popular late-round running back. You go get Melvin Gordon because something could happen to Javonte, plus we've seen Melvin Gordon produce. Melvin Gordon dealing with a neck injury that not only sidelined him a bit in this game against the Raiders, but he also fumbled on a fumble 6, basically, that went to the house. And I don't know if you saw that play, Austin. It popped out right into the dude's hands, and he basically ran it to the house. So we've got the fumble issue. We've got the neck issue. And so they went out immediately and signed Latavius Murray. So, I guess this is what we're going to look at here. The Denver backfield and the Atlanta backfield. Austin, how would you prioritize attacking each backfield and which guy?
This is a great question, man. I think the name that I'm paying the most attention to right now is Mike Boone. And the reason on that is because I think he's going to be overlooked by a lot of leagues because Melvin Gordon has been a popular name for a very long time and was an RB2 in all formats last season. 4.52 yards per carry. He had 8 touchdowns. He was involved in the passing game. You think he's going to come in and eat up a lot of the work Javonte Williams is leaving behind. But looking at the last 2 games for Melvin Gordon, I'm seeing efficiency numbers way down. Just 3 carries, but only 8 yards, 2.67 yards per carry. Go to week 3, 12 carries, which is in line with what he's been getting. 26 yards, 2.17 yards per carry. And I'm just looking at all the games, and it's just moving down. You talk about the neck injury. He's going to be 30 this year.
He's got 4 fumbles, I think, on the year, too, Austin. Like that's not good for this team that desperately needs to play better.
Mike Boone comes in and pops a little. Just 3 carries, but 20 yards. You like what he's doing there. They're going to have to run the rock. Latavius Murray could be the option who gets the most. But I think you hit it earlier in the show, Travi, with this is going to have to be Russell Wilson's slack to pick up. Because it's Javonte Williams wasn't blowing you away as is to start the year. He was disappointing you a little bit. He wasn't exploding, and I don't know why Latavius Murray or Mike Boone would be a better 1-2 than Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. So I'm looking at Mike Boone, but I'm saying temper expectations. You're not going to get a 1-for-1 replacement because even if you did, it wasn't something that was winning you your games.
Yeah, and I'll just echo kind of what you're saying here. I think Boone is especially in PPR leagues, is the speculative ad you want to get because I think he'll be given the first shot. I mean, we saw it in the game against the Raiders, not last drive though. The problem was Boone dropped a few balls and it didn't look great. So I think that there's not a long leash for Boone, but that he will get the Javonte-esque receiving role to start. And they'll let Gordon, as long as Gordon's healthy, kind of try to be the guy to trot out there. But that's what makes Murray such an interesting ad because of the fumble issue and because of the neck issue already with Melvin. I think Latavius would be in line to be like a goal line guy for this team if something happened to Melvin.
Honestly, man, I'm not over the moon about any of these guys. I don't think we have a league winner on this page right now. And that's where we always salivate. Like, let's be honest here. What you're really hoping for is you get yourself a high tower. You know, from years past, Travis, that I know you won a League of Record championship with, picking him up down the road. I'm thinking of DeMarco Murray way back in the day with
and a lighter version was our guy last year for the Niners. Elijah Mitchell, was a guy that in the first couple of weeks, injuries happen and he got. I don't know that we have anybody. I would agree with that. In fact, guys that aren't making the most added are a little bit more rostered here. And I'm going to just list these guys off to you that I think may be more or maybe more imperative ads than these guys. And that's Isaiah Pacheco, Rashad White, Brian Robinson, and this was mentioned here in the chat. I forget who it was, but even that's the problem with these Atlanta backs. Damian Williams is eligible to come back off the IR. So there might be 3 dudes in that room. Yeah. So there might be 3 dudes in that room that we're talking about. So I'm okay fading these top 4. Unless you're really desperate and you're like, I need a play.
If you did take one of these 4, which one are you taking?
I think Boone is the right answer.
Really?
He should. Yeah, I think he should get the passing down work to start. And if Melvin Gordon fumbles more or just sucks like he has been kind of, then I think Boone could expand that role and expand the trust that they have in him and be in the right place at the right time. He's the only guy I would add here. But I'm telling you right now, in most of my leagues, I'm looking to add Isaiah Pacheco or Rashad White over any of these guys because their roles are league winning should something happen ahead of them. And I just think that is more – I'd take that contingent value waiting for something to happen than a dart throw on guys in mediocre Broncos offense to – kind of bad Falcons offense.
Right. Like for me, I'm interested on this list here. I don't disagree with the Mike Boone take, and I'm not surprised if he is the one with the most fantasy points at the end of the season of the 4 running backs on the list. I think of these 4, if you said, Austin, you get to pick one, which one would you want? I'm probably grabbing Tyler Allgeier because I just can't help myself. I like the work that he saw out of Boise State. I like a former linebacker who likes to hit coming in between the tackles. And the work that we've seen Tyler Allgeier thus far this season has been encouraging. He's got 5.35 yards per carry on 26 attempts, 139 yards, caught both his passes, just 2, but for another 25 yards. The thing is, though, you brought up a good point there on the presumed ceiling, moving forward. And like Cordell Patterson could be back. Williams could be coming back. We've got 2 Atlanta running backs over on this side. But if Rashad White with Tampa Bay or Isaiah Pacheco ends up taking, they don't even need to fully take over. If they just had an active role in their offenses, they have standalone value. And then if the guys ahead of them, Leonard Fournette or CEH, are relegated for whatever reason, then you've got a league winner in those guys in a way you don't have with anybody here.
Absolutely. And I love this. I know we're going to save some of these questions, but I think Franz had a relevant one here. He says, I got priority 1. Do I use it on Rashad White or Pacheco? And Austin talked about even if they got a bigger role in their offense, both guys saw their highest snap rate of the season in this last game, and they were facing each other. And I thought what was interesting about White's is they scripted it, because even after he fumbled the kickoff at the very start, and they still went to him in this game as a receiving back because the game script dictated that, like they needed to throw. But typically they've still saved all that for Leonard Fournette, even too. You saw some design looks for Rashad White in this game as they're starting to get him going in that role. So right now, I honestly think it's a 50-50, because if either of these guys step into a role, I want that guy. But I would say I'm giving the edge to Rashad White only because there's 2 guys to deal with in Tampa Bay, Leonard Fournette and Rashad White, and there's 3 in Kansas City. And even in this game where Pacheco saw the most carries, it was CEH's best game of the season as far as a rusher. You know, they gave him actual work as a running back, nearly got 100 yards, got 92, I think. So I think that there's, it's really like a coin flip, but maybe it's more like a 55 edge for Rashad White for me over Pacheco, but it's really close.
Yeah, it's really close. I like that White had, caught all 5 of his passes for 50 yards. I haven't been impressed with Rashad White on the ground thus far this season. 3 carries, just 6 yards. What you like is how bad Leonard Fournette did. 3 carries for minus 3 yards.
What you're seeing is
he caught all 7 of his passes.
Yeah. They're not great at run blocking right now. You can see it. And that's why Fournette was even a buy for me a couple weeks ago, because he's getting some of the best usage up until this last game in the league, but he just hasn't hit because they're not running very well. And he hasn't scored. And so those things are going to buoy it, but I'm definitely
Pacheco has the highest ceiling of all of the guys that we've mentioned flat out. He has the best physicals. He plays on the best offense, and Correct. He could become the starting running back just based on merit. I think White, everybody else here that we've mentioned needs, I'd be shocked to see White overtake Fournette just straight up. It could happen. Sure. I don't think it's going to happen, especially with how old school this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team is looking. Bring on Julio, bring over the old team. I bring over Cameron Braid and that tight end from the Vikings. It's just,
I struggle to see. I'm with you. And I think that there is a world where Pacheco would maybe win the job. I think he could win CEH's job if CEH started to suck. I definitely think that could happen. Yeah. But I think that McKinnon, CH has been fine, and McKinnon has been somebody they're still going to work in no matter what, it feels like, unfortunately.
He had a bad game. The last 2 games have been bad.
Yeah, but even in the game before, he outsnapped all the other backs in the Colts game. They all had a bad game against the Colts. But I'd just be interested. I think as long as they're all healthy, I think Reed's going to use them all. And that could mean more of this guy or that guy in a certain game, but I think that we've seen something to go there. But I agree with you. Definitely more ceiling in Pacheco's camp than anybody else we've talked about on this. But I personally am leaning White, but I understand the need to go Pacheco. It's fun, and he's got the upside for sure. All right, we'll look at some of the guys you'd be looking to drop based on the Denver backs, the Atlanta backs, and then some of the guys we mentioned. Jerick McKinnon, we talked about him kind of struggling last week and the week before. And, definitely probably third fiddle now with Pacheco having a bit of a coming out, at least his best game of the season so far. On Sunday night, we've got Craig Reynolds, who's that secondary role, but also Justin Jackson got work for the Lions on Sunday. So they used all 3 of those backs. And then Samaje Perine, who I think people had picked up for a contingency plan for Joe Mixon, but I think Joe Mixon escaped unscathed from that Thursday night. So I guess the question here is, Austin, are we dropping all of these guys for the Denver backs or the Atlanta backs? And then the backs.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. We've gotten back-to-back games now on Jerick McKinnon. I'm okay. He's a desperate flex play for me at the running back position. I feel confident on that. I'm fine. Craig Reynolds, Jamal Williams really stepped up for this squad, and I don't know why they would go a different direction. And then, P. Ryan, that was a speculative ad based on the news on Mixon's ankle, and he looks just fine. So, I'm fine taking all these guys off my roster.
Is there a more fun player than Jamal Williams right now, dude? Did you see the video that came out Friday before the game? Like last Friday, it was just basically Adam Levitan described it as Jamal Williams performing cunnilingus on a video that Detroit Lions put out. And he's just like doing this dance move. Adam Levitan retweeted, said that basically every woman in Detroit got pregnant after that video.
Is now pregnant? Yeah.
So Jamal Williams, again, just continues to be a cultural icon for this football team, getting fined for the 3-pump touchdown, and he had an excellent game as well. Austin, he showed some more speed than I ever saw him on the Packers.
Ever.
I mean, that top-end speed to get the touchdown home. So
the joke I wrote about it in an old TFW article, like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, year one. And the joke was Jamal Williams is about as fast as Windows 95 streaming Netflix.
Right.
And he had 18 carries for 108 yards and a couple.
He shattered that.
Yeah, he's looked really good, and he now is literally for me the case study on people can work at their craft and get better at what they do, even in age is relative.
And also, change of scene could be everything. He feels embraced, and I remember him talking about this, not feeling embraced by the Packers, feels embraced by the Lions. I mean, the Lions verified account made this video of him like being sexual. Right. And so that's he's an icon for this Detroit Lions team. And I think that was just great. Anyways, just wanted to give him a shout out. Yes, Jersey J says hit that like button for the algorithm. We appreciate it. If you're in here, hit that like button. We got 20 of you in here. There better be at least 20 likes in here. I mean, come on, smash that like button. All right, so we've got through the running backs here. We know you got all these questions. Again, if you want immediate answers, hit that super chat. We will get to all the questions as we file through these positions. But the next position is the wide receiver, and where we thought that there might be a lot more quantity at wide receiver, I feel like there's more quality maybe at wide receiver than there is quantity versus running back. And that's not necessarily because of Corey Davis, who had a decent game here. Obviously, he had some big games with Zach Wilson last year as well. So that's kind of the reason we're adding him. We're scooping him up here.
He played pretty good last year.
Yeah, he had some really good games, and it looks like there was a comfortability that was retained because he had another decent game here against the Steelers in that win. So Corey Davis, interesting, 30% rostered, the most picked up wide receiver at the moment. The second most picked up wide receiver, Austin, is George Pickens, Johnny's boy here from Pittsburgh, who had a monster game. Once Kenny Pickett got into the game, he got a chance on balls. Stuff was thrown to the boundaries, had over 100 yards in this contest. I think 8 targets, if I'm not mistaken.
6 catches.
6 catches. So really nice game from a guy that's talented, and he's drafted by a team that knows wide receiver talent. We know this. So he's definitely one of those exciting, could be a rookie breakout candidate here. He had a great game. And then Josh Reynolds, he is a guy that has established chemistry with Jared Goff. We still don't know the full extent of Amon-Ra St. Brown and DeAndre Swift's absences, and they could be out because their bye is next week. So, Austin, they could be on the same path for conservatism with both Amon-Ra St. Brown and DeAndre Swift, which makes Reynolds at least usable this week. And so he could be a stash play, and he's seen 18 targets, I think, over the last 2 weeks for this squad. So he's definitely had some good juice, played some decent amount of snaps, which is really good to see at wide receiver. And so that's what we're dealing with as far as these guys. Any of these guys, I mean, I think for me, it's got to be Pickens. I don't know if you agree with that, but just are you more in on the Corey Davis side because we've seen it already and Pickens would be a little bit more volatile? Or how do you see this shake out of the top 3 here?
Right. So if you need a play next week and Amon-Ra St. Brown is out, I'm firing up Josh Reynolds, man. Yeah, I think he's got the best shot to be productive for you next week. I think he has the fewest question marks. I think he's got a really high ceiling and he's got a pretty low floor, a pretty high floor. Like you said, 18 targets last couple of games with 13 catches, averaging over 85 yards on that run. Yeah. We advised starting Josh Reynolds last week. And if you did, you got 7 catches, 81 yards, and a touchdown. Do you know how tall Josh Reynolds is, man?
6'6"?
No, that's a 6'3". So he's he's a guy. Like he's
He's got speed. He could have had a better day. I obviously played him in our league of record, so I was watching a little bit closer, but he got stopped at the 1 yard line. So like he could have had a second touchdown on the day. And we know that Goff is a guy that looks for guys he's comfortable with. Look at Amon-Ra St. Brown's target share when he's in there. Look at Hawkinson in this game. Hawkinson went absolutely fucking ballistic in this game, and that's because Goff has an affinity towards these guys. Josh Reynolds is another guy he played with in L.A. There is the shower narrative here with these two, and he trusts them. And by way of just Shark being injured, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Swift, all these guys out, Reynolds has had to step up, and he has done so.
But with that said, man, I think that's for next week, and I did qualify it with Amon-Ra being out. George Pickens, though, is certainly the most intriguing option on this list. We didn't see George Pickens catch more than 3 balls prior to last week. He had 6 catches this week, 102 yards, as you mentioned. 70% snap share. Wasn't his highest of the year, but the rapport he showed with Kenny Pickett is what is elevating George Pickens along with his play style. We've all seen the catch. We've all seen some of his highlights then from college. Like, George Pickens has legitimate talent, and he's showing rapport with Kenny Pickett. Yes. My question is, does Chase Claypool make any kind of splash? I don't think he probably does. But
he had a big play. He had a big play go through his hand. Sorry to interrupt there, and was a pick, when Pickett came into the game. So it was on Claypool, most likely. But I think that all of these guys become a little bit more interesting now with Pickett in play. And I'm not saying that we can really trust a rookie quarterback, but there at least is there's some juice to Deontay Johnson. There's some juice to Claypool, but definitely some juice to Pickens, who is on your waiver most likely, because he's only owned in 58% of sleeper leagues.
You go with the upside of Pickens and you love it, but it's a rookie playing with a rookie quarterback with 2 other talented wide receivers right next to him who both had more snap share than Pickens did. And Pickens is a little bit of a hot shot too.
I think you broke it down pretty perfectly here. If you're saying, I need to win this next week, I'm 0-4, I go get Reynolds. If I'm 1-3, 2-2, and I need a couple week play that I think I can count on, I go get Corey Davis.
Right.
If I'm a contender and I just want to stash upside and I want to be aggressive with my FOB that I've saved, and I'm 4-0 and I'm 3-1, I'm going to get George Pickens, because I think that's the way you can build like a home run hit. You don't have to start Pickens and rely on Pickens. You can stash him and watch him mature on your bench. I think that would be how I would approach this. And we'll get into some of your specific questions, as we said. The chat popping off tonight. We love it. We love that you guys are with us, and we will get to all your questions in just a moment as we work through some of these top ads and drops here. So speaking of drops, we got to look at the negative here. We got to talk about the most dropped wide receivers on the waiver right now. That's Greg Dortch being dropped in a hurry. People can't wait to drop Dortch with Rondale Moore returning. Mac Hollins also a guy that, obviously Austin, we could have called this. Probably not going to happen. Probably not real. Richie James. Richie James is also being dropped like a bad habit. So of these guys, I think we're probably good dropping all of these guys, even in any scenario that we talked about before. If you need the 1 week play, if you need the 3 week play, if you need the month-long play or season-long play. Is there anybody here you'd hang on to for those other guys we mentioned?
Nah, you can let them all go.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. All right, we'll move on to tight end here, and we've got 3 names to talk about, some actually fan favorites. Go for it. So Will Dissly, 5% rostered here in sleeper leagues, getting a big ad because he scored again in this new Geno Smith fired up offense they've got going on here. Speaking of a great offense, Gerald Everett plays in one. He plays for the Chargers here, and he's still just 75% rostered and the second most added tight end. So please, if he's available, you should be picking him up. I don't know why he'd still be out there in your league, but 25% leagues don't have him. And then Mo AlieCox, who scored also in this game. You'd like to see Mo AlieCox going. I know I would. I love Mo AlieCox, just a giant human being, yak monster, good touchdown threat here. So those are the 3 most added here. Will Dissly, Big Country, Gerald Everett, Mo AlieCox, Big Mo. Austin, any of these guys, somebody you're really excited to go grab? Obviously Gerald Everett, I think we could have actually omitted from here, but 75%, I just wanted to get the word out. Like, if he's still there, you got to go grab him. Like, Everett's been doing the right thing. Like, he's been one of the late round or waiver wire tight ends to have and hold. But Will Dissly, Mo AlieCox, any of these guys really springing it up for you?
Well, AlieCox is certainly a option we've been pulling for a little bit. He's fucking big.
Mm-hmm.
He's on an offense that has a lot of question marks at the wide receiver position. Outside of Pittman, are we talking Ashland Doolin, Alec Pierce? What's up, Harris Campbell, AlieCox? But hell, they've also got Jelani Woods. I'll tell you what, man, I'm actually not stoked on any of these guys here. I agree with your assessment on Gerald Everett. He's somebody who probably shouldn't be on your waivers anymore, but he's still also, to me, not like an answer. This is how I usually define tight ends. I'm like, is this guy a problem for your lineup? Is he a playable tight end, or is he an answer? And most tight ends are playable tight ends. And that means I just have a low level of expectations for them. I hope they're involved in the majority of snaps. I'm looking for them to be active outside of the red zone as well as in the red zone. Maybe they can catch a couple of plays in between the 20s and then target it a couple of times in the end zone. They walk away from the season with like 5 to 10 touchdowns. That's what I'm generally looking for. And then an answer tight end would be your Kelce's, your Andrews, somebody who actually has a positional advantage, somebody who is basically top 15 at the wide receiver position, but they play tight end. I don't see any of these guys being answers for you. I think Will Dissly could end up being a problem for you. I think he's just off to a hot start. But he hasn't had more than 4 targets. He's 3 targets, 2 targets, 3 targets, 4 targets. It's just that he's had 3 touchdowns. So he's obviously a red zone target for Geno Smith. But that's about all you're really going to get. He's
and
got
both of these guys, both AlieCox and Will Dissly, work in rotations with other tight ends, which is hard. We want our tight ends to. Part of the reason Andrews and Kelce become answers, even earlier in their career when we weren't sure, is because they became guys that ran a ton of snaps and, more importantly, ran a ton of routes on their snaps. They were out there to run routes and catch balls. And we just don't know that that's necessarily what's happening with these two. So that's what makes them a little bit more shaky. I wouldn't be in a hurry to go get them. David Njoku, he's a name that's not up here, but still 65%.
You got to get him.
You got to go get David Njoku. He's a guy that could become a main bane for Cleveland. Yes, him and Everett, I think, are going to be duking it out for the best waiver ad or late round tight end to go get. Also Higbee, who Jersey J is mentioning as well. Who, I mean, he's up to like 89% now.
He leads the league in targets and catches. I think he has more targets than like Kelce and Andrews. And
he is a PPR godsend for you if you picked him up off the waivers because it's just the way the line works. Yeah. The way the line works in
LA. I mean, he's tendinitis, dude.
Yes, and he's getting all the targets we were hoping, the target share we were hoping would go to Allen Robinson. And a month in, we're just not seeing it. So I'm definitely in on that. So tight ends we can drop, Austin, as we move forward here. Tyler Conklin is somebody that's being dropped a lot. I don't know if we feel like dropping him after the game of Zach Wilson coming in. And then Albert O, I believe, played 1 snap last week. So the Albert O experiment, I think, is done, even if the Broncos are going to run more. Greg Dulcich, the rookie, and these other guys, Eric, I think, Saubert, these other guys that they're working. Some of these teams just use tight end rotations. That's what we're dealing with Albert O, and he just has not been a good enough blocker to stay on the field. So definitely fine dropping him for either of the other plays there. What about Tyler Conklin, though, Austin?
I've got Tyler Conklin in our listener league. What's up, Scott? Suck it long and suck it hard. I love Tyler Conklin. He started off doing really good. It was awesome. Fun little story of just grabbing a guy after all 15 other people had at least one tight end. And he was like a top 6 tight end before last week. He had not as good as he had his worst game of the season in PPR formats. He's now the tight end number 13, number 9 in PPR. He had a backslide after last week, but man, he's still had 81% snap share. He had 5 targets, just 3 catches, but 52 yards, man, 17.3 yards per catch. And we just broke down a little of what tight ends are generally like. Tyler Conklin, even with his worst game of the season last week, is not a problem for you at the tight end position. He does have upside because of his snap share. He's gotten 4 catches, 6 targets, 4, 6, 8, 3. That's how many catches he's had in the 4 games. 16 yards, 40 yards, 84 yards, and 52 yards last week. The question becomes, who are you dropping him for? And I've got Tyler Conklin, so I can go ahead and run this thought experiment out in real time and just look at our listener league and see who would I rather have in our 16.
Keep in mind it's a 16 team. That's a quad flex.
Team. Yeah, and if you're in a 10-team league, you shouldn't have Tyler Conklin on your squad.
Right, exactly.
If you've got him, if you're one of the people
I do think he makes like the streamable 12-man kind of situation, like where you could plug them in certain situations. I'd rather have these guys we mentioned, like Njoku, Everett, Higbee. Hopefully you snagged one of them.
And I actually spoke a little too much on Conklin because he was a top 5 tight end last week. So you did have teams. You had 8-person leagues where people were considering picking him up because he was a top half tight end right there. He was
kind of mini breakout.
Right. But looking now in our 16-teamer, do I want Tyler Conklin or Cameron Brate, who had 8 targets, 4 catches for 32 yards? I'm still rolling with Conklin. The talent of a Noah Fant in Seattle. I love that he's had over 53% snap share in every single game, but he hasn't had more than 4 catches. And in that game with 4 catches, it was 27 yards.
You know what I mean? Disley being involved too.
Right. Yeah. You can't really rely on there. I'm looking at like Foster Moreau, who's being inactive. Last week, I'm looking at Geno Smith, who got hurt. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm still taking Tyler Conklin over all of those guys. Now, Mo AlieCox, though, is available in our listener league.
Do I take
Tyler Conklin or Mo AlieCox?
Well, here's what I was going to say I liked about Conklin, right? We've looked at 82% of the routes, 88%, 74%, 73%. So he did see his lowest route participation. But Austin, in these games, 10% of the target market share in week 1, then 19%, 20% of the targets in week 3, 17%. So even though he was out there less on the routes, he was still garnering targets when out there, which means I'm actually more inclined to trust a Tyler Conklin that Zach Wilson could sustain than maybe some of these other guys like Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis. Like I might be a little bit more inclined that those guys could be more like Conklin could be more sustained than those guys. But again, I think it is a case by case. And for me, I'm taking Conklin over Will Disley. Do see I'd probably take Conklin even over Mo AlieCox too.
I think I would too. I don't think I'm going to move on from Conklin.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to approach that. All right, so at quarterback position, we've got the most added quarterback being Teddy Bridgewater. Obviously, it was announced, I believe, today or yesterday that Tua will be officially out. I think it was yesterday. He'll be officially out for this week against the Jets. There's no firm timetable on when he'll return. This is a great matchup for quarterbacks on paper against the Jets. So it's something you'd want to go and take a look at. That's why he's being added. Plus Superflex, if you had to, I think there's some contingency there. The second most added quarterback that we have here off of waivers, Jared Goff, 51% still rostered. So he's hovering around there. I feel like people want to quit Goff, and he keeps giving them reason not to.
Dude, we wanted to move on from him last week. I moved on from him last week because he got all of his best weapons out of there. And then what does he do? He only has his best fucking game of the season, 378 yards, 4 touchdowns, 42 points.
So my concern with Goff this week, and it is kind of a plug and play. You're playing against the Patriots in New England, so weather could be a factor. We'll see what happens there. This team, though, has been pretty decent against pretty decent matchup for quarterbacks. However, they've played, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, and also who was that other one? They played 2 in Miami. So there's some holes you could poke, but I think this offense, it's the number 1 scoring offense in the league. In Austin, they have the number 1 scored against defense in the league, which means they're going to be in continuous shootouts, or at least in games that you should stay throwing the ball. So I think Goff is probably the best guy you'd go and get off of waivers of the 3 we're going to talk about. And the last one is Geno Smith, who's 20% rostered. And people, again, I think the 20% just shows you people hesitant to believe, but similar to Goff, he proved us wrong yet again. What does he say? Hey, they wrote me off. I ain't right back. So that's where Geno Smith stands here. Of these guys, who is your favorite given their matchup, given the situation? Now, remember with Goff, you could play him this week, but they have their bye next week. So there's situations we've got to take into play here. Oh, there they are. The Austin famous goosebumps.
Got goosebumps, baby. I am really interested in Geno Smith, man, but I'm going to table that a little, and I'm going to go Jared Goff number 1. And the reason I'm going Jared Goff number 1 is he just had his best game of the season with his best weapons out. And he found ways to use his other weapons, Travis.
I mean, TJ Hawkinson's career game.
TJ Hawkinson, shout out Chelsea Lee Byers, who beat me in our dynasty matchup. It was the two undefeateds against each other, me and her, both 3-0. I'm now 3-1. I came up 10 points shy because she got 30 fucking points out of TJ Hawkinson. He came in and lit the world on fire. Josh Reynolds came in and filled in really nicely. Jamal Williams came in and filled really nicely, but Jared Goff did his job, man. And we talk about how bad this defense is. I'm sorry for Dan Campbell, because I think he's trying really hard, but this offense is going to be catching up to the other offense they're playing against because their defense doesn't fully look there. That's just great news, though, for Jared Goff if he's on your fantasy team. He's already been a top 6 quarterback already, going back to 2018 with the Rams squad. He's the number 5 overall quarterback right now, Big Travie. And when he gets Amon-Ra St. Brown back, that's going to help him out. And he's going to get Williams down the road, who I don't think is going to step in right away and be a big playmaker, but it's just going to be more options. And I think he'll be better than DJ Chark after like 3 games or whatever it is. Once Jamal Williams, if he comes back, we'll see how that's going on. So I think Jared Goff is the most intriguing rest of season. Next one for me is Geno Smith, man. Geno Smith, because it's a couple of factors that are really interesting to me. We don't have any sample sizes we can point to that Geno Smith has been good over a significant amount of time. This is actually the best sample size we have right now. I'm looking back at this dude's like 9-year career. You go to his fucking rookie season, dude, 12 touchdowns, 21 interceptions, icky for the Jets. The next season, 13 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. He doesn't have he has 2 touchdowns, 1 interception in 2015, throwing the ball a total of 42 times all year. And that's the most he's thrown the rock since last season. 42 attempts in 2015. Fast forward 7 years later to 2021 with Seattle, where we've talked a lot about the limited sample size he had in Seattle with Russell Smith being down, and he wasn't bad. 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, 95 attempts, 702 passing yards, not bad. And then step into this year where they gave him the car keys. Now, it wasn't without a little bit of friendly competition between him and Drew Lock, but that has been settled. This is Geno Smith's team to quarterback. And he's got 6 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 320 yards last week, 325 yards the week before that. And he looks to be getting a little more comfortable rushing the ball, Travis. 7 carries, 49 yards on the ground added on top of his 320 passing yards. So Geno Smith, he's got good weapons, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, and they're being used in similar ways that Russell Wilson did in terms of target share. They've got like almost all of the target share. They're good. The run game is helping him out. I think Geno Smith has a lot of things working for him. And you mentioned it earlier, dude. If Pete Carroll has actually taken a bit of a pause, looked himself in the mirror, said, what do we really need to do to have this offense humming along? I mean, he said it verbally. We need to open it up. We need to go a little bit deeper. And, back-to-back 300-plus yard games for Geno Smith. I think he's got some rest of season appeal. I understand why people aren't biting into it yet. And I don't think you should go full throat on Geno Smith, but I am considering him rest of season, man. And then Teddy Bridgewater is a fine fill-in, but that's all he is.
Yeah, and I think I think you broke it down pretty succinctly there. I think what I'll say lastly here is about Seattle, and if you're struggling with some confidence in this is from Dwayne McFarland, does the utilization report every week on PFF. If we look at when the Seahawks are trailing by 4 or more points, they're 4 spots above league average in their pass play rate, so their willingness to throw the ball. When they're within 3 points, they're 3 spots above the league average, and when they're leading by 4 or more points, they're 6 spots above the league average. They want to throw the ball right now. That's just what they've done. So that's what we've seen here. And so that gives me some hope that of these guys, I think that he is, right there maybe with Goff, maybe a little bit down just because I think he makes up for it, though, because of the bye next week for Goff. So, like, if you're looking for a longer-term option next week or this year, Geno's fine, especially in those super flex leagues that we play in. And the last point I want to make, when I'm looking at quarterbacks, especially to stream and fill in, I want guys that are playing at home and are a favorite, at least by a little bit here. None of these guys are that in this situation, but I think that's what makes it okay to kind of trust Geno, trust Jared, because everybody else doesn't have any kind of tools in the bag to argue against playing those guys this week, because even Teddy Bridgewater on the road against the Jets. Now, yes, 10 days to prepare, but I'm still trusting Goff. I'm still trusting Geno Smith ahead of him, even though he is the most added on this list.
I do like Mike McDaniel, though, and I think he's going to do Teddy
and those wide receivers. If we're talking,
the wide receivers, so
if
good.
we're talking about Geno Smith being, being able to float because of DK and Lockett, I mean, Waddle and Tyreek Hill and Mike McDaniel as an offensive playmaker or play caller, I think that is definitely there. These guys,
Bridgewater could be the new Geno Smith.
Yeah, absolutely, and maybe even a little bit more juice, dare I say, just because of the offense. A little bit more upside, I should say. I think that I feel safer with Geno, but I think that there could be more upside over there in Miami.
Got a shout out to Lady V.
What up, Lady V? We are feeling great. We got our coffee flowing, feeling good. All right, before we get into these questions, we're going to talk about guys we can drop. Marcus Mariota is the most dropped guy right now. He now has a turnover in every single game. Carson Wentz, whose offensive line looks like a gingerbread house, and Tua Tagovailoa, who is obviously has no timetable right now to play. So, Austin, are we good, especially in those single quarterback leagues where our bench is shallow? Are we good dropping any of these guys to go pick up one of the three we talked about, and where would that line be if not?
Big shout out to Whisper Nation. A lot of questions coming in. The chat is popping. Absolutely love it. We'll be through with our waiver wire takes in a moment, and we will then work from the top to the bottom, getting all of your questions in. If you're running short on time and you got to ask us, hit us with a super chat. We'll bump you up. So to your question here, Travis, I'm not dropping Tua if I can stomach it. I think he's probably out for another 2 weeks or so, but Tua's deep metrics, man, are awesome. He's not only throwing the ball deep, he's throwing the ball deep well. His big money shots are looking good. His coach looks like he's able to set him up for success, unless we're talking about medical clearance. His weapons are incredible. I think Tua is the real deal. I'm not saying that Wentz or Marcus Mariota are the real deal. They're streaming options for me. They're going to have good games. Wentz will have some pop games. I don't know how much of a pop you're going to get from Marcus Mariota, who hasn't broken. His best game is 229 passing yards. He's gotten 2 touchdowns, multiple touchdowns in one of the 4 games this season. He's gotten no touchdowns in more games than he's gotten multiple touchdowns. So I'm not feeling Marcus Mariota at all. You can let him go. Wentz, streaming option for me. If I can stomach holding on to Tua, I would, because he's going to come back eventually. He might be out a month. Yeah. But when he comes back, he's going to come back. He's going to be coming back to play winning football. And he's got one of the most exciting offenses and already had one of the best starts this year.
I honestly think that we'll see what happens with Miami. But from what I've been reading, a lot of what they are trying to do is, I think, wait out this investigation and see what happens there, obviously. But also, his health is at the forefront because it's definitely under the microscope now and they have to play correct. But I will say, like, if they were thinking longer than a month, they'd probably put him on the IR, and because that's the 3 to 4 week span. So I do think that he's probably sooner than that. But to Austin's point, you never know with this stuff. Like the next day, it could be something where.
And honestly, if they were going to throw him on the IR, even if they said we're going to keep him out for a month, if I'm the PR team, I would want it to look like we are moving a little bit more carefully and not rushing to any decisions at all.
Right.
So I would just temper any kinds of expectations. So I think they're playing with some weird bits of fire here because they fucked up.
Yeah,
now they're trying to make it right. They're not trying to make it look like they fucked up even more than they did by an overcorrection to the new problem.
Exactly. All right. Well said there. And we are through all of the positional adds and drops that we've got, which means we can get to the good stuff here. Your guys' questions that's in the chat. We are excited because there's been a ton of them. Thanks to our guys, our True Blues, Mr. Miyagi, Jersey J, Ronald, everybody, Freak Stomper in here that have been like answering the questions as well. Keep that up. We know we love it. If you guys want to continue this conversation past the show, hit us up at the Discord. It's absolutely free. We've got more of these guys in there. They're answering questions. They're asking their own questions. It's a great community, and it's absolutely free. So hit that link in the description if you're watching over here on YouTube. All right, Austin, let's dive into these here.
We'll both work on this. We got Jersey Jays at the top. Mr. Miyagi, I lost Javonte Williams, pick Latavius Murray, Mike Boone, or don't even bother with this backfield.
I mean, it's all relative. If you got the spot, so I'd rather take a stab at him. We talked about Boone being the most realistic outcome here of the guys that are available. But again, we also talked about Isaiah Pacheco and Rashad White. Like, if you don't absolutely need it, I mean, it's hard to believe that you don't because you lost Javonte Williams. But if you don't absolutely need it, I like those other guys as better long-term plays than either Murray or Boone. So that's where I'd kind of be at with this. If you're making me choose between these two, it's Boone for me.
I'm with you on this one, but I agree with the other statements that you made here. What up, Andre? I'll take this one, lead it off. Should I pick up Renfrow or Pickens? Half-point PPR. Travis, I think I'm going Pickens on this just because I love Renfrow. He was a wide receiver 1 last year, but that was without Devontae Adams coming on board. He is the number 3 at best, Renfrow, behind Waller and Devontae Adams. And for a guy who's going to need volume, I'm not sure he's going to get that same volume that you're going to need to really make your day, as where Pickens could just be a big play phenom.
Agreed.
All right. What up, Steven Joe?
What up,
Travis?
Steven?
Trade away Lamb and Everett for Gordon, Hawkinson, and Pittman.
So I'm trading away Lamb and Everett. I'm getting Gordon, Hawkinson, and Pittman back. I'm keeping Lamb and Everett here. I think we're getting decent production enough out of Everett. He hasn't had the blow-up game for Hawkinson, but is Hawkinson going to do this every game? No. I mean, obviously, he's not going to pop off like this. This was a historic day for him. And Lamb looks great with and without Dak Prescott. So I think Lamb's the best player in this deal, and you should keep on doing it.
You're not getting that much of an upgrade. You're not even getting that much of an upgrade here. Follow up on the number 1 waiver. Should I burn it on Allgeier? Thin at running back. We've said on this one a little bit. I don't mind Allgeier.
Yeah, I don't mind Allgeier either.
I don't mind it at all. Would you take Pacheco or White, or excuse me? Yeah, would you take White, Pacheco, or Allgeier here with the number 1 waiver wire?
If I'm thin at running back, I think you got to probably go with Allgeier just because
there's a starter
where it becomes the starter. If you need that starting spot, if you need a flex, if you need that. But there is a world where Rashad White and even Pacheco get that standalone value we talked about. Like, think of him as a Tony Pollard that could emerge there for either of these guys, you know? So I think that they could end up flex worthy.
Kareem Hunt at best.
Yes, exactly.
Should I trade Scary Terry for Amari Cooper? Asks Chris.
I'd keep on to Scary Terry. He was dealing with competitive competition with Jahan Dotson down the field. That's where both of their targets are going. But Jahan Dotson just pulled a hammy. I don't know how long he'll be out, but that's definitely probably some good news for Scary Terry's down the field targets and touchdown upside without Jahan Dotson.
And more rapport building between Wentz and Scary Terry. It's less dudes in the room. They're just going to have to chop it up.
Part of why
often.
Dotson's been good is maybe been because, he's been in the room with Wentz, and Wentz is new to the team.
What up, boys? What up, Jonathan?
What up, Jonathan?
Got Fournette, and someone offered me Joe Mixon straight up. I'd take Joe Mixon over Fournette.
Yeah, I would take that deal.
Franz, fun name, got an offered in seasonal for Kelsey, and I would get Josh Allen and Kittle. Current quarterbacks are Dak and Geno. Got an offer for Kelsey. I would wait. You're getting rid of Kelsey, and you get Josh Allen
and Kittle back. So this is interesting, and I would almost entertain it. The problem is Dak is probably a week or two away. So I don't know if I necessarily want to give up Kelsey's positional advantage, although Josh Allen, donging. I'd have to know, is this a 6-point touchdown league? Is it a 4-point touchdown league? That makes a difference for me because of the rushing upside with Allen that he would give you over Dak. And Kittle, I don't know about you, Austin. Have you watched closely the last 2 games with Kittle? He almost had the touchdown last night. So that was a little bit inspiring. But it does seem that this offense is a little bit a step down from when they've been before. And that doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies on Kittle right now.
I don't got the warm and fuzzies. I'm wondering if he's like a buy low kind of guy, but you're not getting him as I would hope to get just a little bit more. That Josh Allen piece is really nice though, man. He's fucking good, and he's coming off of a bit of a down stretch. I think he comes roaring back, and that he's not going to be available then. But Kelsey on their side, Kelsey's number 1 tight end, but he hasn't had like insane games, right? He's just been pretty consistent to start out the year. Yeah, well, 27 points week 1 there, 121 yards and a touchdown, then 10 points, 18 points, 26 points. Man, that's really good, dude. That's hard. It's hard to give up.
That's my thing. It's hard to give up Kelsey because I think even in game like Andrews, you could say, Andrews was pushing to be number 1 himself, and he's had bad games, and Kelsey hasn't. So like that's where I'm at with Kelsey. Is I think he's just
and there's no logic other than he's 33 and his body's going to break down, which just hasn't happened.
Yeah.
There's no other real target. Like Tyreek Hill is gone. No one's pushing Travis Kelce for targets. Juju Smith is the number 2 option in Kansas City, and he's like a wide receiver 3 flex option at best.
Yeah, agreed.
Kelce's, and they're winning. They're doing good.
I'm keeping Kelce here.
Miles Sanders or CEH rest of season.
I think Miles Sanders is the smart play, but my heart wants to say CEH, because it's just like we've been seeing people, oh, well, he can't live off this, and he probably can't. I mean, we're probably 3 weeks away from saying like CEH is, an RB3, RB2, RB3 range. But right now, the argument was always he could fall in for this many touchdowns, and he's doing it right now. So, but yeah, again, Sanders, I think, is getting the workflow. His usage is a little bit more sustainable, or a lot of bit more sustainable than that of CEH's. But, and the Eagles are challenging for one of those high-tempo offenses that we want to be a part of. So, yeah, I'd go with Sanders here.
I would go with Sanders here as well.
I traded away in my big money league today. I traded away CEH and Romeo Doubs and got Joe Mixon back.
Oh, nice.
So that is something, that's the range I'd be looking. Like the big thing in the industry has been sell high on CEH, but you got to sell high. You got to go get something. You can't just give away touchdown upside or touchdown equity for, another underperforming guy. I think you got to go get something back. So that's the range I wanted to give a little bit of context to.
Chris Baroque wants to trade Dalvin Cook. What's a realistic trade you think for Dalvin Cook right now?
First of all, I don't know that I want to trade Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook is like a buy low candidate right now, and I think there is a world where he's never the same, but he got plenty of work last week. It just looks bad because Madison got subbed in on that one play and scored the touchdown. Like Cook could have easily got that touchdown, and his day looks a lot better. Cook is going to be out there a ton. They're a bad running team right now, but that could change as we get further on in the season, and he's getting volume when not a lot of guys get volume.
He was offered Zeke and Thielen. Oh, wait, this is
a Jay
Phil. This was for Cook.
Oh, no.
It was Jay Phil here. Oh, wait. Never mind. Sorry, I got confused here.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to trade him either, but if you were hell-bent, you just can't stand seeing him on your roster anymore.
Which I've been there. I just
positional. What's the positional level would you go for with him? Could you get a wide? Would you do a back end wide receiver 1?
Like maybe there's a situation where you could go buy AJ Brown, maybe if you're looking for a wide receiver. Maybe even CeeDee Lamb. I mean, CeeDee Lamb, the problem is CeeDee Lamb's been so good, so I don't think you could do it. But those are the type of guys I'd be looking, which tells you what I think about Dalvin Cook, right? Which means like I just don't see there's a situation. People are going to want to buy low off of you, Chris. They're going to want to come in and tackle you while you're down here with it and try and get them off your hands. I'd be standing pat with him, and I'd be more inclined to make a deal. If you don't have Madison, I'd be more inclined to go get Madison from someone.
I like that too. Jay Phil was offered Zeke and Thielen for Swift. I want Swift.
Yeah. I mean, I understand it. If you're staring down the barrel of 0-4 and 1-3, and you're feeling like you got to make a move, I would say, look at your playoff structure. Is it really that dramatic? A lot of times in our league of record, Austin, 8 out of 12 make it. And a lot of these guys get in my DMs and they're like, oh my God, I suck. The sky is falling. 8 out of 12 make it. So if 8 out of 12,
there's lucky teams that are in the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
Lucky teams make the playoffs.
You just got to win a few in a few weeks. So don't, unless it's like 6 out of 12 or 4 out of 12, something crazy like that make it, then you're feeling the pinch. Okay, but this is like the bare minute. Like I would not want to do this deal. No part of me would want to do this deal.
Should I trade James Conner for Breece Hall and Kareem Hunt? Need help? You can trade away James Conner and get Breece Hall and Kareem Hunt. I would do that.
Do it fucking fast.
I don't even think Conner's. I don't even know if Conner's the best player in this deal.
Yeah, and he's looked like he's banged up, and that team looks like it's not firing. Breece Hall is basically taken over. Kareem Hunt's like an RB2-3 borderline now with the usage of Chubb, but he's still a guy in PPR that's getting enough work to relevate.
You smash this fast. If you can get away with this, would you trade James Conner for either of the guys?
Yeah, that's the thing is I would trade away a slugging James Conner for either of these guys in the upside that they could outproduce him.
What's up, SH7? Should I trade Nick Chubb and receive Jamar Chase? Give away Nick Chubb, pick up Jamar Chase.
I don't think I would. You want to. The sex appeal is there, but Chubb has been everything we wanted him to be, and it's finally happening as far as volume and touchdown upside. So yeah, and wait till Watson gets back too. Like the touchdown upside could get even higher.
Jamar Chase is going to be better. It's almost impossible for him not to be, but like I don't think Nick Chubb is going to get that much worse. I think he's going to get a little bit worse, but I don't think he's going to be that much worse. And all Nick Chubb has done is what Nick Chubb does. He's the number one running back in all formats. Do I think he stays the number one running back? No, but
he's got over 100 and a touchdown in each game, right? I think that's
first game he had 141 yards, no touchdowns.
Okay, so he's had over 100 or a touchdown in every game, I think.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah, that's you'll take.
And they're using him, and Cleveland looks better, and like they should be using him.
Javonte Williams owner if he wants Nick Chubb, right? Definitely does. He wishes he would take Chubb, or she.
All right, let's move in through Riders Chambers. What's good? Do you think Mike Boone is a better pickup than Latavius Murray?
Yeah, so we covered this a little bit at the top, but yeah, I think that's where we're both out. Austin, if I'm speaking out of turn, let me know. But I think just the passing game role that Mike Boone probably suggests to have right away. But I do think Latavius Murray is a guy that could something else break here. He could emerge. But yeah, Boone gets the edge for me.
I don't know if we got the honorable mentions on moving over to Jersey J. I don't know if we got the honorable mentions going on the running backs, but Raheem Mostert, I think, is a name that deserves some honorable mention on waiver wire acquisition. 49% rostered. And he had 15 carries for 69 yards. Nice. Last week, 4.6 yards per carry. He also got 3 targets that went his way. We lost on one of the bet slips, the Raheem Mostert over under carries, because it was like 10 carries. And we're like, I feel very good about going under on that one. Then he had 15. And pair that with Chase Edmonds, who had 5 carries for 6 yards, dude. Like, I think Raheem Mostert's looking like the guy, the backfield's.
He's at least the 1A, I would say, and I think they've rotated it a couple weeks. But yeah, I would agree with that. I think Mostert's a decent one to go get. Should I get? I could get Mostert, Henderson, or Boone off waivers. I think Mostert's probably the guy I'm going to edge over Henderson. But yeah, in that order, I think is the right way to go off of waivers.
Albert, Rashad White, a good pickup.
A great pickup.
Yeah, I love it. Love that one. Some fun questions here about the number one priority. Like, who do I use it? Like, you got White, you got Allgeier, you got Boone, you got Pacheco. Like, there's some interesting answers in here. A lot of names being thrown around. All right, moving through. What's up, Drem ML? Would you trade Josh Jacobs or David Montgomery for Pittman Jr. in full point PPR?
I'd trade Montgomery for Pittman in a full point PPR. He's injured right now. And I'd keep Josh Jacobs at all costs right now. Josh Jacobs is like getting usage similar to Saquon and like CMC right now. And even in the passing game, I think he had 5 catches in the last game. I don't want to be giving up on Josh Jacobs. I'd be trying to acquire Josh Jacobs.
Without any updates on Montgomery going for Pittman, I feel like that would be okay. We haven't gotten any news on David Montgomery. If David Montgomery was said to be healthy and coming back next week, would you still do that?
In full point PPR, I might. It would depend on roster construction, like where are you thin at and stuff for sure. But I do think Pittman's upside remains similar. I know he's had a couple bad games and he had the quad injury, but I do think that he is a guy that if you're talking about dudes in the Colts offense, it's Jonathan Taylor and Pittman. That's dudes at least I know that are there. So that's where I kind of lean on him in an offense that I should be better than the Bears the rest of the season. But, who knows?
This Colts what concerns me is lack of continuity. And Matt Ryan's a new quarterback who hasn't had a lot of time to play catch with anybody.
Right.
Because the whole offseason with Pittman, and then Pittman's out, right? You get Alec Pierce who gets drafted. Ashland Doolin's probably the guy he's had the most. Him and Paris Campbell are probably the most amount of reps between Matt Ryan and the receivers than anybody else. And like Jonathan Taylor, this offense hasn't had a chance to all line up together and build their collective chemistry. Like, I think that the Colts could just skid all season. It's going to be a rough year for.
Yeah, there definitely could be a whole lot more volatile than we thought. And we've seen that already. But if we're like comparing offenses, like,
yeah, I mean,
the Bears are dumpster.
Bears are dumpster. Their run game has been pretty good.
Now their run blocking has been great. I will say that.
Whether it's Will Herbert or Montgomery or even Justin Fields, they can all run the ball.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, agreed.
Cozy here. PPR flex, Cortland Sutton, CeeDee Lamb, Godwin, Mari Cooper.
You just have one to start here? That's a bummer, man. You got to trade some of these guys, get some positional advantage somewhere else. I would go CD Lamb. I think that's where I'm.
And then Sutton
here. Yeah. Sutton's an interesting case now that Javonte got hurt. I'm excited to see how this offense goes, the passing offense, but I'm trusting a little bit more of that Cooper Rush vibe, dude.
Doesn't look like it's hurting CD at all.
No.
Splash, don't lose. Fun name, fun avatar image. Should I trade DK Metcalf for Kyle Pitts and Chris Godwin? Got Higbee already.
I'd hang on to DK Metcalf, especially since you have Higbee. You don't need to go get Kyle Pitts, who has been a headache for people and just played the least amount of snaps all season, I believe, in this game, or at least ran the least amount of routes. One of the utilization keys that came out of this game was bad for Pitts. And what we're seeing is Arthur Smith just won't use him because they're trying to run more, and he's not going to be in there to run block. He's going to be in there to go receive.
One thing I did like about Pitts was they lined him up at halfback on the 4-yard line. They had a designed play. He was integrated in a special way. The play didn't open up for him. But I don't think you move. I don't think you do it. I think Kyle Pitts is somebody you just sit on there and you hope for.
Yeah.
If you drafted him, you're kind of bummed, and hopefully you got him at a value. Travis, you traded him away, which was good. I picked him up at a little bit of a discount, and then it's kind of like I'm just
sure.
sit on it. I think
holding on Pitts is great because if we get the switch to Desmond Ridder, we've seen how rookie quarterbacks tend to lean on a tight end, and that could be something that could happen. They go even more conservative, bring our guy in line more. That's what I'm hoping for if I have Pitts, and I have him in several spots. I'm hoping for a Desmond Ridder switch.
But I'm not doing this. I don't think I'm doing this one.
No.
DK Metcalf's on the up, and you're just flying on hope for Kyle Pitts and Chris Godwin. He got banged up again in that game. What do you have an update on Chris Godwin?
I didn't watch the end of that game, so I don't know. Did he not finish the game? And they were also getting blown out. So let me just double check really quick.
Injury scare second half of the game, but he was able to play through it and had a nice fantasy outing. Okay.
He looks, Sleeper's funny. He looks to be fully healthy moving forward. I don't know if that's true.
I don't know.
We'll go from there. He did see 10 targets, I believe, right? Yeah.
He did. It's seven
yeah. So that's nice to see. And I think this offense is going to continue to need to throw through him and Mike Evans. So I think that's definitely something nice to see.
I think it's nice to see, but I'm not sold on him enough to steer away from our.
No, DK's the guy you want there.
Carl, what's up? Would you take the package of Freiermuth and ETN or Pitts and Pollard? I'm trading away Pierce. It's PPR redraft, and I'm pretty deep at running back with CMC, Barkley, Herbert, and Stevenson. Would you take the package of Freiermuth and ETN or Pitts and Pollard? I'm
taking Pitts and Pollard. I think the upside's a little bit better, so that's why I'm just leaning with that one.
I think the floor is better too.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right, moving forward. What up, Chase Green? Should I trade Eckler and Pitts for Andrews?
I would keep on to Eckler. I do love Mark Andrews, but like that you have Pitts, so you can wait on the upside for that positional advantage. And Eckler, we saw Eckler get back right last week, so
yeah, the chat's all in this one. No, you should not. No, do not trade Eckler.
Yeah.
What's up, Andre? Should I drop Josh Reynolds or Burks for Pickens or Renfro? I dropped Burks for Pickens.
Yep.
Treylon Burks.
Yep. Yeah, and you could. I'd be fine dropping Reynolds, but drop Burks first. I mean, he's going to the IR most likely with that.
I'm not really interested in Renfro.
Yeah.
Are you?
No. I could understand it in a PPR situation where you're starting 3 wide receivers and you need some depth. But I think I like both of these guys equally as much as Renfro.
Here's a question for
Reynolds and Pickens.
Here's a question for you, Travis. I know you picked up Greg Wilson in our league of record. Are you dropping him for Corey Davis?
I'm not dropping Garrett Wilson, and that's really because of the first-round capital that's going on with them. Corey Davis is a guy that's been nice and veteran and all that, but I think there's still huge upside with Garrett Wilson. And he played his most snaps of the season. It really didn't come through in the box score. But I think Wilson, they used him on a lot of things. I think Zach Wilson's first pass was to Garrett Wilson. He's got his last name, so there's the ego play there. I think I like Wilson a lot more here. I'm not dropping him.
What up, Sam? I have a full point PPR draft tonight. Fun. Month in. All right. Can you help me out for positions in the first couple rounds, wide receiver or running back round 1? A month in. I think is the question. Like, what's your draft strategy if you start a draft in week 5?
That's an interesting question. I haven't really thought of it. I mean, I thought of guys that we should have been drafted. I'd take Saquon Barkley 101 right now if you're making a redraft. Yeah. He gets the best usage in the league. He's the best player on his team. The whole offense runs through him. And he's just fantastic. And I think Chubb would be second or third, and CMC is probably still right there. If we knew about the injury for JT, obviously JT's up in there top 5 as well. I mean, I think that's where
wide receivers up there. Cooper Kupp is probably still number 1. Justin
Jefferson has at least had the 2 monster weeks that make you feel good about it. I think Chase loses a little bit of the shine just because of how good Pickens has been. So that's where I'm at with that. In the second round, I think guys that like Deebo Samuel, AJ Brown, Tyreek Hill. These are guys that wide receivers are popping in second round. The tight ends, both Andrews and Kelsey, I think more Kelsey than Andrews, verified where they were being taken in a big way. And then you got to be thinking about QB a little bit earlier now. Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. These are guys that like Patrick Mahomes. Did we get a discount on Patrick Mahomes? I think we did, So I think those are the guys you're thinking about in this kind of weird scenario. This is awesome, though.
Let us know if you got any questions.
Yeah, let us know who you got, too. Join the Discord. Show us your team.
Show us your team.
Show us, whip it out. Henderson or Pacheco rest of season? I mean, I'm taking Pacheco.
I think I'm taking Pacheco, too.
What we've seen now from the Rams, I think 3 weeks in a row, is they want Akers to be the guy. Now, whether or not he's good enough to do it, they seem to be giving more of the work to Akers each and every week. The line is not very good, and he hasn't been very good, but we'll see. Pacheco's at least a guy that has the upside to win you the league. I don't know if Henderson's got that.
Henderson, 7 carries last week, 4 carries the week before that. Pacheco had 11, and he did really good work with them. Henderson didn't do good work with either of the weeks that he's gotten. Not a lot of carries either. And the offense in Kansas City is better too.
Yep.
Weird how fast things changed. All right, moving on. What up, Riders? Here, another question. Would you grab Rondale Moore or George Pickens?
Pickens.
Me too. Mr. Miyagi wants to know, should he start Everett or Pitts? And do you think Everett worth keeping 2 tight ends since Keenan Allen will come back soon?
It's always relative for me, like who you're going to drop Everett for. This is where we're at, I guess, if we're starting Everett over Pitts. Yeah, I probably would. I like the offensive environment better. Better chance to score a touchdown, I think, is Everett.
It's number 5 tight end.
Right now. Yeah, I think that's kind of where
right now. When Keenan Allen comes back, I probably play Gerald Everett that week when I'm watching very, very closely. And then if I had to roll the dice or look in the Magic 8 Ball, I bet it would say you probably should steer away from Gerald Everett if Keenan Allen is fully involved in the offense as he usually is.
And is Keenan Allen going to come back soon? Because they tried to get Keenan Allen back, and he had a setback. So it's something to keep an eye on with Keenan Allen. So.
Day to day. So I think they'll probably...
Don't assume you know anything about a hamstring.
Hamstrings are weird, dude. Yeah. Right. So I think you got some clearance with Everett for a little bit. Until I think it is going to be a problem when Keenan Allen returns. That might be for some time.
Yes.
Let's see. What's up, Griffin Stiegman? Trade Cook, Madison, and Debo for Leonard Fournette, Chris Olave, and Keenan Allen. No.
Trade Cook and Madison and Debo. No,
don't do this at all. Don't do this at all. Keep the Minnesota backfield and the best wide receiver of this.
Keep the 2 best players in this deal on your side.
No. Josh 10A, is Joe Mixon for Jamar Chase a good trade? My receivers are Keenan Allen, Kupp, and Debo, and my running backs are Kamara, Mixon, Najee, and Saquon.
I mean, you're sitting pretty nice at running back. I think I wouldn't mind getting this. I mean, your fucking wide receivers are good too.
You should get more. Joe Mixon was going ahead of Jamar Chase in almost every format, and Joe Mixon is playing better right now than Jamar Chase anyways. I find difficult points backing up Jamar Chase having more value than Joe Mixon does, at least in redraft leagues. If it's Dynasty, that's different. But in redraft, I'm having a hard time justifying Chase over Mixon. So I think the general space is fine, but I would want to either give up less or get more for me.
You'd really want to see Kamara and Keenan Allen get back, and then maybe or trade Najee. Like keep Joe.
Yeah,
I trade Najee for Chase.
Yeah,
that's what I do personally.
That's pretty fair. I think that sounds like.
I think if you want to do the 1-for-1, give him Najee and you take Chase back, and then I think that's good because then you keep the touchdown upside of Mixon on your side.
Austin's got Higgins and Chase. Do I trade one? My other wide receivers are Diggs, Juju, and Dubs. You don't have to at all.
No.
There's no evidence suggesting having two good wide receivers on an offense is a bad thing. It's not bad for the NFL team. It's not bad for the fantasy team. Offenses can support two wide receiver ones. In fact, most years there's more than one team that usually does that.
So you're going to be really happy when you have two top 12 scorers, two top 15 scorers every single week. Like, remove the names. That's what you're trying to do in your lineup every week anyways, Vision
wants to know what you think about Romeo Dubs.
I like what I see out of the rookie, man. He looks good. And I wish he would have came down with that other touchdown, but he still had a very solid game.
Especially in PPR.
And he's a guy they're using as deep threat. I think he's great. I mean, he's a wide receiver 2-3 borderline, maybe rest of season. So
definitely startable for you, for sure. Wide receiver 2? You think Dubs could go up to wide receiver 2?
Yeah, low end wide receiver 2. I think he could be. In PPR, for sure.
In PPR. Okay. I'm a little concerned about the yards per catch, but yeah, okay. One more here before this. Goff or Wilson if he plays this week? Jared Goff.
Russell Wilson. Oh, man. This is going to be the common question Jersey J asks us all year, and I'm going to have the same response all year as I have no fucking clue, dude.
I'm a little concerned about Russell Wilson with a banged-up shoulder playing on a short week.
Yeah, we know that game's low. I'd like to see. Let me see who has the better point total. Vegas thinks is going to score a little bit more points. Because I am worried about maybe it's just the cynic in me that's trying to worry about Jared Goff, but going up to New England to face them doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies about Goff, who is historically kind of a trapdoor quarterback. Not that Russ hasn't been. So the Colts have a 20, or not the Colts. That's not what I'm looking for. The Broncos have a 21 in team implied total, and the Detroit Lions are number 2, 26. Oh, this was last week. We don't want this. These people. I don't know. What do you have a take either way? Are you leaning Goff here?
I think I'm leaning Goff just because he's healthy. I don't know how serious the shoulder is. I don't think it's very serious, but because I'm pretty close on these two, I'm taking Goff after the best fantasy game he's had in a long time over Russell Wilson, who did have his best fantasy game of this season, but it was still only 75% of what Goff produced. Yeah, I think I'm playing Goff over Wilson this week for a few reasons. I don't like the shortened week for Wilson. I don't like the banged up shoulder. I don't know exactly how
I'm with that
lack of running back options.
21 and a half implied line for the Lions, and the Broncos 23. So it's really not. It's negligible. So I think it's good. Should trade
Flores, Clyde Edwards-Helaire for Leonard Fournette and Mike Williams.
Yeah, I'd do that deal.
Yeah, I would do that deal for sure. Should I drop Allen Robinson for George Pickens?
Yeah, I think we're good on that. I think we're good dropping Robinson for something like that. It's an upstart play. You're just betting on Pickens to live out his upside faster than Allen Robinson, and I think he's kind of already done that with a over 100-yard game. So
Gonzalez Ben's 06. What's up? Wait, Gonzalez Ben. Yeah, 06. Someone dropped Michael Carter. Is he worth a pickup over these sleepers?
Over the guys we've listed today, I take Pacheco and Rashad White over Michael Carter at this point.
We predicted it to go this way with these two, and it's
happened. So
I'd still like Michael Carter on the squad.
I take Carter over the Atlanta and Denver backs, though.
Okay,
that's the line I'm taking.
Michael Carter or Tyler Allgeier?
Michael Carter, yeah.
Okay.
And I understand that Allgeier's got a path, but Damian Williams coming back, this other guy getting involved.
Squids, Giant Chode. What it do, baby? 2-2 going up against number 1 team this week. Current waiver moves. I got dropping LACD for Denver D. Crosby for Butker. McKissick for Tony. Started McKissick to fill in for Kamara, both my wide receivers this year, but I don't think he's got a high ceiling, and Robinson coming back with just adds more touches. McKissick's role should be untouched, though, right?
Well, I don't know. They were talking up by Brian Robinson's pass catching ability in the offseason, so we'll see.
Kind of like they talked up Antonio Gibson's pass catching.
Right. So Washington is I'm going to be watching this backfield with the most intent in a while, because a lot is about to potentially be flipped upside down. I wouldn't even be surprised, though, is if it's one of those things like Robinson, pick him up, and it becomes the Antonio Gibson show again, like it was at the end of last year. Like nothing would surprise me in this backfield. But I don't want to go pick up Tony, who may not even play for McKissick in a PPR.
Dude, I am not going to put a headache like Kadarius Toney on my shoulders at all. Like, I'm not into the upside. I'm not sucking it down. The dude doesn't work hard. The dude doesn't take his job seriously. He's injury prone. He plays on a bad offense. To be
like the Corey Davis or the Josh Reynolds. We got to see it out there before he's getting picked up again, because we haven't seen it at all this year with a new coaching staff. Yeah,
100%. Well said. Scooby Taylor asks, did you trade away Derrick Henry for Jonathan Taylor and Gabe Davis PPR?
You would get Jonathan Taylor and Gabe Davis back? Yeah, I'd do that deal.
I think so. It's a good buy.
They're saying it's not. Yeah, they're saying it's not. They're probably going to hold him out if they're smart of this game, give him the 10 days off. And I think it's a good, like Austin says, it's a good buy low right now. Now, Henry is interesting in PPR because I think he's got 11 targets over the last 2 games, Austin. They've actually schemed him up and stuff.
Yeah.
Like actual screens we're seeing, and they're going to have to. So he is interesting to keep on to.
Sure.
If there's something else you can do, but I don't mind this deal at all for you.
No, I'd like this one too. Niners 49 I need 10-team league, 3 wide receiver, 2 flex, 1 tight end, 2 running back. I got Conklin, Boone, Chase, James Robinson, Kelsey, Devonta Smith, Alec Pierce.
I need 3 wide receivers, 2 flex, and a tight end, 2 running backs. Do you even have enough players there? Well, Kelsey, you're starting, obviously. Jamar Chase, you're starting. James Robinson, you're starting. I don't think this is enough players to fill out what you need.
The best we can do with the information.
Yeah, I think that's what you've got. I think that's what you have. You can start.
Bryce Long here. Did you trade Keenan Allen and Rashad Penny for Kamara or Pitts and Hollywood for Andrews?
If you trade Keenan Allen and Penny for Kamara, it's a buy low situation, or Pitts and Hollywood for Andrews. I'd do the Pitts and Hollywood for Andrews.
Me too.
I think there's a world where Hollywood downgrades when Hopkins is back. So you like that positional advantage. The other side of this, Austin, Keenan Allen and Penny for Kamara. Would you do that?
And he's doing great. We're just thinking he's going to die. But, like, Kamara's dead right now.
What is dead may never die.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so right now.
I'd be doing it for the trophy case. I'd be doing it for the trophy case, not for the fantasy points.
Let me tell you, you cannot get points from a guy looking good in your roster.
You can't. And I know. It looks nice, and it's really fun for 6 a day.
This is not a bad team.
It's not a bad team. I tell myself that all the time. Friends, it's seasonal. Should I trade Kelsey for Josh Allen and Kittle? We got this one earlier.
I think we did this one, yeah.
Yeah, we're saying no.
Yeah.
Kelsey's just been too good. I got offered Fournette for Jamal Williams. I've got Swift on my roster as well. Should I take the deal and hold on to Williams as insurance? I love the Lions. Oof.
You got offered Fournette? I would take Fournette if you have Swift. This is a capitalization on Jamal Williams. And Jamal Williams probably had the best game he's ever going to have. And that touchdown equity will probably run drier than it has been. So Fournette on the other side is a positive regression touchdown candidate in the back half of this year. So I'd be taking that deal.
Well said. Andre asks, could you trade Derek Carr for DJ Moore? I've got Brady too. I guess so, because who cares about Derek Carr?
Yeah.
I don't care about DJ Moore.
If you're going to drop him anyways, do it. Yeah.
Jukebox Talks. My roommate wants to trade me Jonathan Taylor for CEH and Edmonds. Thoughts?
He wants to give you JT? Yeah, I'd do that deal.
I'd take JT. I want JT in this deal.
Wants to trade me JT for CEH and Edmonds. If you're getting JT, do it.
And Chase Edmonds is droppable. Consider He's a drop candidate for me.
Yeah.
Chris Baroque, Scary Terry or Cooper, and why?
I'm going Scary Terry here.
Ooh.
Because I know that he's had bad games and good games. Cooper has. He's been kind of split. And Terry now with the Dotson injury he could start to hit more of his ceiling, I feel like. And so I'm more in on Scary Terry because I think it's the bigger swing. I think they're both in the same category. And Cooper's floor for me just doesn't really do it as far as like Scary could be that 100-yard touchdown guy.
Yeah, it's Cooper's bad game last week. 4 targets, 1 catch, 9 yards was enough just to show me he's not a full vein on this team. And I think you said it really well there of how him and Scary Terry are used, but I think Terry has bigger playability. ML, I know this is kind of random, but in very deep tight end premium league, 12 teams, 20-man rosters, is it smart to stash Gronkowski on the chance he comes back?
Depends on how deep 20-man rosters. I think it's fine. I mean, who else are you putting in there and churning out? Especially this year. We talked about this still. Like, if he got a call, we couldn't say he wouldn't or would come back. This team has dealt with a lot of injuries.
I don't think the question. Brady banged up. Brady likely frustrated. Bucks lost 2-0. Brady could call Gronk. I bet Brady's been calling Gronk, and I don't think Gronk is answering the call.
Yeah,
I think that Brady called Gronk to start the season, and I think Gronk Gronk's not looking to come into a situation where it's like, they need me. He's looking to come to a party that's already bumping where he can come in, walk, and grab a ring. He's not looking to do
question of the night. Has Brady called Giselle or Gronk more in the last month?
Oof. Neither one are answering.
Oh, man. He's
CD or Waddle?
It's like a rest of season take. This week I'm taking CD. Rest of season I'm probably taking CD just because Tyreek Hill exists. Yeah, I think it's CD.
I like CD on this, but Waddle's awesome. Yeah, but I think it's CD.
Good problems to have.
What do you think about Garrett Wilson this week, Travi? Jason and Tracy Phillips.
I cannot start Garrett Wilson with as much enthusiasm as you had after his breakout game with Joe Flacco because I need to see Zach Wilson become a quarterback for 4 quarters of a full game before I'm trusting Garrett Wilson.
I like this mutually run YouTube account by Jason and Tracy Phillips. That's pretty cute.
You got to start saying who commented though. We need to.
You run a team together?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I know you run a YouTube account together.
Or Jason or Tracy's over here behind their back making the fantasy. She's gonna be like, why? Or he or she's gonna be like, why is this coming up in my algorithm? Fantasy Whispers.
EJ, drop Wentz for Jared Goff or Geno Smith. I liked Goff a little bit more.
I'd drop him for both. I'm fine with both.
Yeah, either way. But
Jared Goff first, though. Yeah, I like Austin said.
Right, coming down here.
Rapid fire through here, Austin. If we
almost, I'm scrolling far down. I'm just looking for him.
Okay.
Hey, should I trade Cooks or Garrett Wilson for Deontay Johnson?
I'd keep on to Cooks. Depends. I'd want to keep on to Wilson too, but Pickett makes this offense a little bit more attractive. So I'd be okay with Wilson for Deontay. Like if you needed production right now,
that's where we go to. Yeah. Get something a little bit more solid. Garrett Wilson is exciting, but he is the least secure. He's a rookie with a second.
If you're 4-0, you don't care, then keep on to Wilson.
But otherwise, I want Deontay Johnson though. You don't want Deontay Johnson over Garrett Wilson?
Season long? Yeah, I mean, I guess that's probably the right call.
I'm taking Deontay Johnson. 10 times out of 10 over Garrett Wilson. But thoughts on Deontay Johnson and Jeff Wilson for T. Higgins PPR?
If you're getting T. Higgins back, I like that.
Yeah.
I want all the T. Higgins I can get exposure to right now.
T. Higgins looks really nice. Jeff Wilson's cool too. Deontay Johnson, I think this could be a trade that benefits you both. T. Higgins is the best player in this deal, but everybody's getting active work on this squad. We're coming to the end here. SBD AIDS. Is it good I traded Kamara and Penny for Jonathan Taylor? I already got Fournette and Stevenson.
You traded away Kamara and Penny to get JT? That's excellent. That was a great job. If you got JT, yes.
That's cool. You might suffer a little bit this week if Penny goes off and JT is still hurt, but I like the rest of the season. I think you came out value-wise. Chris Baroque. If I got Melvin Gordon, good flex start this week, or stick with Lockett and Thielen? Monitor that neck, too. I might want to play Lockett over Melvin Gordon. I think I do, too, by a little bit. Stree Gaming. Would you trade Joe Mixon and Marquise Brown for A.J. Brown and Devontae Adams, half-point PPR?
I trade Joe Mixon and Marquise Brown for A.J. Brown and Devontae Adams. Yeah, I'd do that, too. Depends on your running backs. Like I wouldn't want to be just like giving up Joe Mixon for other, but this is a great haul. Like you get AJ Brown and Devontae Adams back in half PPR. That's good.
Need to have at least one other good running back, preferably two, for me to really feel comfortable about this.
Yeah.
CD and Godwin for Dalvin Cook. Yeet Man 143 wants to know.
I'd keep the CD and Godwin side. Again, it would depend on what you're working with at running back. Like if you're absolutely desperate, you had Javonte and Cordarrelle Patterson, and you need running back, I could understand you going to go get Dalvin Cook. It feels like a desperation move, though. Yeah.
You always talk about the arrows, like you want to trade 4 up arrows, and like CD's got an up arrow. Dalvin does not. It's tough. Obviously you could get a buy low in a Dalvin, but
yeah. I think that's the argument there is the utilization is there for Dalvin. He just hasn't hit.
Oh, Minnesota should not be using Dalvin Cook as much as they had. The re-injury risk of this shoulder is high.
Oh, yeah. I didn't understand why they played him in this game.
I know, me either. Stephen Joe, is Edmonds droppable? Bench pretty solid. I mean, yeah, for me.
Would you drop Edmonds for Allgeier or Pacheco? 3-1. Pacheco, and I would. Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
I would do it for Pacheco for sure.
I think I'd be okay keeping Edmonds over Allgeier, but I think Pacheco.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
It's a coin toss for me. Yeah. Did I win? Asked D Scott 35. Devontae and Connor for Jonathan Taylor and Dubs. Yeah. You got Jonathan Taylor. I like that.
Yeah.
And Dubs is fun. So you got like a nice uptick right now. Yeah.
I have CMC, Brees, AJ, and J.K. Dobbins already. Yeah. I like that deal.
Squid Giant Show, 12-man PPR. Any players you would move on from my bench? Pickens, Eli Moore, Madison, Rashad White, McKissick, Deshaun Watson. Like my 14th round keeper.
Elijah Moore, Madison, Rashad White, McKissick, Deshaun Watson. I think that McKissick would be the only one I'd be really, and I think you can keep him. Like any of the guys we mentioned, like you have Rashad White there. So, like, if Pacheco's available, you could drop McKissick or maybe even Watson. I know what you're trying to do, though, with the keeper. You're trying to get Watson as a 14th-round keeper to have next year. I understand that.
What I'm going to throw out there about Deshaun Watson hype is we had a lot of Russell Wilson hype.
Sure.
And Russell Wilson is not dealing with all of the things that Deshaun Watson is dealing with. And look at how that hype translated to production coming from an old team to a new team. With all the expectations and support in the world, where are we at with Russell Wilson? And why is Deshaun Watson impervious to that possibility?
He's not impervious. I will say I think I probably like the coaching staff a little bit better and the offensive line a little bit better. But, yeah, I hear your points, and I think it's a big point. But I think the play on Watson right now for this year with this roster is that 14th-round keeper.
Yeah, it's a different situation.
Yeah. But I do like preaching caution on Deshaun Watson from what we've seen in this first month of new situations.
Thoughts on Najee Harris now that Pickens in? I like everything more.
Yeah.
I like everything more.
The whole offense gets an upgrade.
Smear a bed. Should I trade Godwin and Zay Jones for Brady, McLaurin, and Renfro?
Godwin and Zay Jones for Brady, McLaurin, and Renfro.
I'd be fine with this.
If you need quarterback, yeah, I mean, I think that's fine.
Brady did good last week.
Yeah.
Love you, Jersey J. Appreciate the shout out for a thumbs up. We'll take it. Hollywood for Sanders. I do that.
Yep.
Maybe outside of like full point PPR, but like I like this. We're gonna get DeAndre Hopkins back soon too.
You need running back? Yeah, I'm good with it.
This is nice. I drafted James Robinson in the 10th round, but ETN scares me a bit. Do you think Robinson will keep producing over ETN enough to keep him, or should I sell high?
It always depends on what you're getting back. I think Robinson does project as a good sell high candidate, but he's also a guy that overproduces. I think
Robinson's going to be an RB2 when it's done, a strong RB2. I don't think he stays an RB1, but I'm not surprised if he does. But he's going to be an RB2. So if you're selling high, if you can get RB1 value, top fold RB1 value, take it, because then at worst you're a parallel play.
Like, would you take James Robinson or Leonard Fournette rest of season?
James Robinson.
Really?
Yeah. I like the mojo going in Jacksonville more.
Fair enough. I think I'd lean Fournette, but I understand wanting to go with Robinson.
It's a good comp. All right. That is all of the questions, Whisper Nation. We got them all the way in.
Yeah.
If you got more questions and we hit the end video before you get it in, take it over to the Discord. Travis mentioned that link is in the description. It's a great Discord. You will have fun being a part of it. If you haven't already subscribed and you like what you've listened to, consider subscribing. We would love to see you on our next show, which will be this Thursday watch party. And we'll be back then on Friday for the news and notes and injury show. Sunday morning lineup questions, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time. We'll get all of your lineup questions answered before kickoff on Sunday morning for the 10 o'clock Pacific time games. Travis, anything else we're missing?
Yeah, we got the Packers playing in London against the Giants on Sunday. So
6:30.
another London game. So that's something to be keep an eye on. But no, Austin, you said it all really well there. We extended the show out a little bit tonight, almost 2 hours. We were rocking with you with the chat. As long as we're going to continue to do that, as we get these great questions in, we'll continue rocking with you. So
last one here, D Scott 35. What do we do with Bateman? Just playing based on that.
You hold right now. He's a little dinged up, but we're hoping to see some uptick. But I appreciate Whisper Nation. Appreciate you, Austin. And that's all I got, man. For Johnny, for Donnie, for Austin, I'm Big Travie. We're the Fantasy Whispers. We're out. Peace.
Right here.
Look at you go. You made it to the end of another one of our videos. Hey, if you still have some questions, I totally understand. Or you just want to join an awesome fantasy football community, head on over to our Discord chat. Link is in the description below. And if you're still not sold